Hello YouTube and welcome back to Planet Coaster. We're not in Stevetown today, I've got something a little bit different for you. While I'm still working away on Stevetown and everything else, we're going to be looking at a number of things being old projects and potential new projects, and perhaps rather inadvisably sort of making some broad strokes plans for Planet Coaster 2 before we've even got our hands on the game, which, you know, what could possibly go wrong? And maybe also just kind of have a look at some old projects that look like could be fun. Give these old projects a kind of a chance to see some action before everybody abandons Planet Coaster forever. So first up we got this mall project, which I started many years ago, and this was something I always really wanted to do. I started watching like Dan Bell and Bright Sun Films and a bunch of those kind of abandoned mall YouTubers at a certain point in time years ago, and then I just really got it in my head that I wanted to do build like an indoor kind of shopping mall park. And as you may know, I just generally have a love for the 90s. So yeah, this was something that I always really wanted to do, and I did in fact start doing it. As you can see, I was always pretty pleased with this kind of musical note archway, even though I'm not really sure what it means. I never came up with a name for the mall. Maybe it would be called like something to do with music. I also was really pleased with these lampposts. I think they look really cool. These lampposts and the whole facade, and really the whole vibe inside is the kind of classic 90s like postmodernism, which I know a lot of people kind of hate, but I just think is brilliant. So yeah. And then inside, the idea was very much that I was going to try and like farm out all of the like storefronts in here to different community members and get people to build storefronts for me. And I can't remember who made these escalators, but I think these are from the workshop. I'm pretty sure I didn't make these, but they look really great. It's just loads of art shapes. And this reminds me actually that when we were talking the other day on Discord about the kind of potential in Planet Coaster 2, now that we can sort of attach scenery pieces to rides and stuff, there's potential that we may now be able to build moving escalators by like attaching something like this to a ride and then having it moving, and then I guess you could set it over like an in-game staircase maybe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but the potential for that is really cool for a project like this. And then yeah, coming through here, obviously this project is severely unfinished, as you can see. Let me just change the lighting here now that we're through this side. Oh, I guess this was made with a custom media piece. These like big pillars used to have a really cool like green marble effect on them, but that is gone now. Whatever that was, it's gone. But yeah, then we've got the kind of mall itself. Again, it's this kind of like postmodern, classical architecture, but it's like garish colours kind of vibes. And then yeah, the whole thing, it's really just about like 90s colours, 90s like primitive shapes and like primitive colours slapped together with like earth tones. And as you can see, it's absolutely kicking off in here. I was always really happy with this like clock centerpiece with all the cogs showing. It reminds me of like a Swatch watch or something. So yeah, definitely want to try and get this sort of thing going again, although I don't know if we're going to have these kinds of like cog pieces in Planet Coaster 2. Also was always really proud of this little Gelateria de Maria ice cream store. Again, it's that kind of like classical architecture in a kind of exaggerated style. I think I also made these TMTK like chairs and tables specifically for this project, and then obviously it never really got off the ground. So that's a bit sad. Over here we've just got like a little trellisy shade cover thing. One aspect of this project that I never really worked out was the roof. I think I did actually make a roof which is buried under the ground here, but I discovered pretty quickly that like it makes everything look really dark unless you have lots of glass on the roof because of how Planet Coaster handles daytime lighting. I think you'd basically have to just put like a glass roof on it. Maybe this will be improved in Planet Coaster 2. And then yeah, obviously we've got this like Vekoma style mine train kiddie coaster thing that goes around the whole area. I never really figured out like how to lay this thing out, or in fact when I started this project I'd yet to really figure out how to like plan things properly. So as a result, I was just like slapping stuff down and it's a bit all over the place. Also was really chuffed with this little food stand, little food kiosk thing. And then over here we've got the Fun City. This was going to be kind of like a disaster report. You know, it's like a rapids ride where the city is like falling apart. There's been some kind of natural disaster or something and everything's in chaos. The pipes are all leaking. The station was going to be like a subway station with a train hanging over the edge and stuff. Again, as you can see, I did not get very far with it. But yeah, this is something that I'd really love to try again in Planet Coaster 2, at least something with this kind of vibe, if not like an indoor mall park. But yeah, I just love these kinds of vibes, and we shall see. I'm hoping that there's going to be the good kind of pieces to do this sort of stuff. Okay, next up we have got, as you can possibly tell from this little zebra crossing here. Zebra crossing? No, this is a pelican crossing. Gosh, it's been so long since I've thought about zebra versus pelican crossing that I actually cannot remember which is which at this moment in time. But anyway, it's British Park. It's a British park. And this is another project that I started years and years ago that was just meant to be like a kind of small-time UK park. A lovely little pub here. I actually made this pub like, I think earlier this year. I jumped into the game very briefly and was like, I'm going to build a pub in my English park. It's called the Stable Door, and it's like a converted stable house. And this is actually the original park that I built the manor house for, which I ended up giving to John T for Pinewood Manor. Initially it was literally just this house here, and then once I decided I was going to John T, I built all of this extra gardens and stuff. But yeah, the idea was that it was like a manor house with a with like a folly in the gardens. And if you don't know, a folly is kind of like back in the day, rich people would basically build like a fake castle in the grounds of their expensive house so that they could like look out of the window and gaze upon their charming fake castle on the hill. So yeah, the idea here was that it was just like, you know, like many of the parks in the UK, it was going to be a kind of like a manor house with a big gardens, and then this kind of like theme park that's popped up around it. Coming from the entrance, there's a little pond with a I guess I was using an aircon unit as like a pump system of some kind. And then again, I think this building here, I changed it up and donated it to John T as part of Pinewood Manor, because I was always really chuffed with this building and I thought it would be a shame to waste it. But this park actually had a name. This was called Blair Castle, which I guess would be the name of the folly over here. And then the actual park itself comes off in this direction. And yeah, it's, you know, it's low-key British park vibes. This was the original park where I had this Brave Sir Robin coaster, which is now in Stevetown, so that's where that came from. There's not much that's particularly remarkable about this park, but there are lots of nice little kind of like very cheap UK park kind of details, like this giant boxy Dodgems unit, and we had a playground over here with a death slide. This is the kind of classic slide where you would get some sort of burn on your skin if you went down it wrong. And then one of these like slides that's like built into the ground as well. Just all these like classic things that you find at like parks in the UK. And of course you can't not have your just like big area of grass for having a picnic with a little food van to the side of it. You know what, this food van's pretty nice. I might take this into Stevetown. And then I was pretty pleased with this wild mouse that I made as well. I'm sure it's not biblically accurate, but I was pretty chuffed with it, especially with this custom lettering up at the back here. Got the burger cabin. This park had a sort of travelling log flume style flume. This park also had a Kindly Woody. Oh, well, I guess it's got two Kindly Woodies, because the Woody over the other side was by Kindly as well. But this one was specifically commissioned as like I wanted to have something that was a bit like Boulder Dash, where it's like a real terrain coaster that goes up the side of the hill and then sort of runs back and forward along the hillside. This coaster's actually like really nice. And then the other thing that I was going to do in this park was try and build like an alpine coaster style thing. You don't see these at a lot of UK parks, but the idea to have this was kind of inspired by this place in Isle of Wight that I cannot remember the name of now, but we went there on a school trip when I was super young, and it's the kind of place that's got like one of these kind of like metal tube toboggan coasters that takes like 20 minutes for you to get to the top. So that was something I was kind of planning to do, and then as you can see, it was around the time that I started building this that I got completely burnt out with the project. I think the plan basically was to maybe have a connecting path here with like this ride and maybe one other ride here, but like this thing was nearly done. Obviously it needed a lot of work to like finish everything off, but yeah, this is definitely something that I could see myself trying again in Planet Coaster 2, like a sort of really low budget like UK park. I mean, in some ways it's kind of similar to Stevetown, but set in the UK. But yeah, that's definitely something that I'd like to try again. Okay, and then the third project I wanted to look at is something which you may be familiar with if you're a old school fan of the channel. And this was a project which was, I mean, the YouTube series was called Fantasyland. I don't think I ever really gave the park a proper name. But this was particularly inspired by the Final Fantasy games. Number 9 in particular, which has this very distinctive kind of like colour and material palette, as well as having these lots of these kinds of like rounded shapes and sort of like exaggerated scaling on certain things, almost in a sort of like chibi style, which is a sort of like an anime style where the characters have like massive heads and tiny bodies, and they kind of apply that like style to everything in the game. I wanted to kind of like try doing a park in this style basically, and of course we've got airships, as you very much would in Final Fantasy. Lots of pipes and things everywhere. There's some buildings in this park that I'm like super proud of. It was very much meant to be like a sort of Disney budget take on a Final Fantasy theme park. I will say this building here is just straight up like on some Disneyland shit and not really anything to do with Final Fantasy. Again, I think I sort of started this project without really any particular goal in mind, other than I was feeling really inspired. I was always really chuffed with this kind of solar system patterning on the floor here using the adventure columns. I think they're adventure columns. Yeah, the temple columns, which they have like 2 color slots each, so you can like create some really cool effects by mixing colors on them. And obviously we've got this very Splash Mountain inspired log flume ride here. Like I was saying, I sort of started this project without any clear goal in mind, other than that I wanted to just throw away any idea of budgetary restraints and build a kind of realistic, highly themed park. I remember being extremely chuffed with this roof cover thing at the time, because it's got this sort of angle going all the way around it. I can't even remember how I did this, to be honest. I think it took absolutely ages. All of this is to say that I definitely would like to try. I mean, you know, obviously I can't get too deeply into anything, but Planet Bro Coaster Season 2, the talks that we've been having, skills that I started developing on this project may come in handy for that. I'd like to try my hand at some more kind of like highly themed stuff. Again, as I was saying, this park just kind of, I just sort of started without any kind of real plan, and as a result there's some very weird stuff about it. Like this entrance area really doesn't make like any sense. It like immediately splits off in 2 different directions. There's no like main street, there's no like direction to any of it. It's just kind of a complete hodgepodge. One little tip here actually is that like it's really useful to just build little palettes of pieces as you're like browsing the scenery tab. Build yourself like little palettes of pieces to use and leave them in like a little area like this, so you can just kind of come back and look at stuff, try combining different things. This orbital cannon piece is funny. I don't think I've ever used this, but I thought it'd be kind of funny to put the like fantasy spire on top of it, and that kind of like mixture of like sci-fi and fantasy is like Final Fantasy in a nutshell. This is it's tacos. The taco dome abomination. But yeah, pallets. Develop pallets of pieces and then use them. So that's if you get nothing else from this video, then maybe that'll be of use to you. Okay, and then next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about not an existing Dead Park project, but one of the few ideas I've had floating around in my head for a while, which I think would be fun to try and do in Planet Coaster 2. This is the city of Las Vegas, Nevada. Sorry. This is because I searched for motel and it's now showing me the prices of all these motels. So yeah, obviously I don't have an actual park project that I can show you, but I can jump into Google Maps here. I'm just going to plot myself down here on Las Vegas Boulevard, opposite the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And what I'm basically thinking is something like this would be really fun. A really run-down kind of like motel with a dirty little swimming pool. And then on like a dead plot of land, in a car park, you would have like a little strip mall or whatever with some interesting shops. And then, oh, the time of day just changed. And then, yeah, on maybe just like on a bit of land like this, just like a little roadside theme park with just like a few flat rides and a coaster or whatever. And then a motel here with like a dirty little pool. Just like we've got here with the Mandalay Bay, you could have like a big fancy hotel resort on the other side of the road with proper swimming pool complex like this. I think that could be a really fun project. Something I would definitely like to try doing. And then the other thing that I'd really like to try doing, which would be sort of a continuation of the Steve brand, is basically something a little bit like Cedar Point, where it's kind of a big concrete peninsula that's just absolutely covered in roller coasters, massive roller coasters. And wow, it's kind of interesting looking at Cedar Point. I did not realise how big Cedar Point was. I don't think I've ever looked at it on Google Maps like this before. But obviously Cedar Point again has just got this it's got a water park and everything. It's kind of fertile ground for the Planet Coaster 2 vibes, and I just think it would be really fun to go from the Steve Town being like a small kind of local American park, family run operation, to Steve Point sort of situation where it's just a massive concrete peninsula filled with massive roller coasters and a giant car park. Although to some extent, like how possible this will be obviously depends on whether or not we get like an ocean map or not. That would really help sell something like this, or at least the ability to have a kind of like an infinite edge on a map. I know lots of people really want to do pier parks and beachfront parks and that sort of thing, so hopefully Frontier will give us the goods. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of plan for the Steve brand in the future at some point. And it's worth saying, of course, that all of these plans are subject to change depending on whims, basically. Because, I mean, it's possible that as soon as we actually get our hands on the game and I see the pieces, then I'll have like a million other ideas that I want to do. But these are the kind of the ideas that I've got floating around at the moment. I think out of all of them, like this and the Vegas idea, and then the mall are like the three that I'm most keen to explore. So yeah, I think that about covers it. Thanks for joining me for this pretty random and weird video. I know that normally I just do Steve Town, so this is a new... I'm branching out. This is a new content for me. I hope it was mildly interesting, at least, and I will catch you next time. Bye!